The female reproductive cycle. The female reproductive cycle is a series of changes in the ovaries and the uterus, with each cycle lasting about a month. The cycle is controlled by hormones secreted from the hypothalamus, anterior pituitary, and the ovaries. The female reproductive cycle is composed of two cycles that make up the monthly cycle, the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle. The ovarian cycle is a series of events in the ovaries that occurs during and after the maturation of an oocyte. The uterine cycle or menstrual cycle is a series of changes in the uterus preparing the uterus for the implantation of a fertilized ovum. The reproductive cycle is broken up into 4 phases: the menstrual phase, pre-ovulatory phase, ovulation, and post-ovulatory phase. The ovarian cycle can be split into the follicular phase, ovulation, and luteal phase. The menstrual phase is roughly the first 5 days of the cycle. During the menstrual phase, the stratum functionalis of the endometrium is shed, discharging blood, tissue, fluid, mucus, and epithelial cells. At this time, the endometrium is very thin. In the ovaries, several primordial follicles develop into primary follicles, then further into secondary follicles. This occurs primarily under the influence of follicular-stimulating hormone. The pre-ovulatory phase is the time between menstruation and ovulation and is the most variable in length. In the ovaries, some of the secondary follicles begin to secrete estrogens. During this phase, a single secondary follicle will outgrow the other follicles and become dominant. This follicle will usually become the mature follicle. In the uterus, the endometrial repair has begun via the stimulation of estrogens released from ovarian follicles. Ovulation is the rupture of a mature follicle and the release of a secondary oocyte into the pelvic cavity. A surge of luteinizing hormone causes the rupture of the follicle and the expulsion of the secondary oocyte. The final phase of the cycle is the post-ovulatory phase, and this is the time between ovulation and the onset of next menses. In the ovary, the corpus luteum cells are formed under the influence of luteinizing hormone. The corpus luteum secretes progesterone and estrogen, relaxin and inhibin. The progesterone and estrogens promote the growth and coiling of the endometrial glands and thickening of the endometrium, preparing the uterus for a fertilized ovum. If fertilization does not occur, the corpus luteum degenerates into a corpus albicans. The decline in estrogen and progesterone causes menstruation, and the cycle repeats. If fertilization does occur, the corpus luteum is maintained by human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, which stimulates its secretory activity. The corpus luteum continues to secrete estrogens and progesterone to maintain the thickness of the uterine endometrium and the pregnancy. This slide summarizes the hormone concentrations throughout the reproductive cycle. As you can see, luteinizing hormone, depicted in orange, has a dramatic surge around mid-cycle, and this is what causes ovulation. Another important concentration to note is the dramatic surge of progesterone, depicted in red, in the post-ovulatory phase, which builds and maintains the uterine endometrium. The second picture summarizes the hormones involved in the reproductive cycle and their functions. Gonadotropin-releasing hormone secreted by the hypothalamus stimulates the release of follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone from the anterior pituitary. Follicular-stimulating hormone stimulates the production of estrogens in the ovary, and luteinizing hormone stimulates the production of progesterone. Women bleed monthly for the creation of life. Menstrual blood is the blood of life. It's what nourished all of us in the womb. In ancient cultures, the reproductive cycle was called the sacred cycle, as it connects women with the earth, mirroring the natural process of creation. It's the manifestation of a woman's connection to earth and to life.